What if we told you that Russia found a loophole with cryptocurrencies that will help them reduce the impact of the sanctions imposed by the US? What will the future for cryptocurrency and other investments look like with the ongoing conflict? Well, we got all the answers for you. Welcome to CryptoSafe. We are giving away $30 to a random person who will subscribe, like, and comment on this video. We will be announcing the winner at the end of the month. Good luck! It looks like the situation between Russia and Ukraine is going out of control, and it is going to impact the whole world. Ukraine lost control of the Chernobyl nuclear site, the site of the 1986 disaster. The staff at the Chernobyl plant had been taken hostage. World leaders tried to stop the invasion and announced sanctions on Russia. Russian forces have attacked Ukraine from 3 sides on a massive scale, which means that the effort of world leaders to make Russia stay away from war did not have any impact on Russia, and Russia is continuing with the war. Ballistic missiles have rained down on military facilities across Ukraine. The fighting gets intense in Sumy, Kharkiv, Kherson, Odessa, and a military airport near Kiev. Western defense officials have repeatedly stated that Russia was likely to attack multiple places. The primary goal is to encircle the capital, Kiev, and ultimately promote regime change. Over the past few months, Russia has deployed hundreds of tanks, self-propelled artillery, and even short-range ballistic missiles from as far away as Siberia within striking range of Ukraine. It all started way back in 2014, when Putin sent troops to annex Crimea, which happens to be a majority Russian-speaking region of Ukraine. Russia also incited a separatist uprising in southeast Ukraine, sending soldiers and weapons to provoke a conflict that grew into a full-blown war. In 2015, a peace agreement was established, but that did not work out because low-level fighting continued along the front, and both sides accused the other of violating the agreement. Russia has long opposed any attempts by Ukraine to move towards the European Union and NATO. One of Putin's repeated demands was a guarantee that Ukraine never joins NATO, which happens to be the alliance of 30 countries that has expanded eastwards ever since the end of the Cold War. But what exactly is the situation going to be like for cryptocurrency assets and the entire world economy? It looks like cryptocurrencies may help Russia and its billionaires get away with the impact of the Western sanctions. US President Joe Biden has authorized strong sanctions in response to Russia's invasion of Ukraine. This way, the US will be limiting the ability of Russia to do business in dollars and other major international currencies and include penalties on 5 Russian banks that represent about $1 trillion in assets. But these sanctions might not mean a lot to a country like Russia that is taking steps to legalize cryptocurrency and a country whose citizens already own a lot of digital assets. It looks like digital assets, like cryptocurrencies along with decentralized exchanges, could become the most effective way to circumvent penalties because cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin are decentralized, when bought and stored non-KYC, which means no dictators or human rights activists will be able to censor what's happening on the blockchain network. The use of privacy coins like MONERO, XHV, or R would protect any citizen or country from being blocked from their money. Sanctions imposed on companies and individuals by the United States and its allies will completely block out Russia, and billionaires are specifically targeted. But if these billionaires choose to circumvent those penalties with cryptocurrencies that use blockchain technology to keep transactions anonymous, this will help them buy goods and services and invest in assets outside Russia while avoiding traditional institutions and banks adhering to the sanctions that could trace their transactions. So, it's clear that if 2 people or organizations want to do business with each other and they're in a situation where they cannot do it with the help of the banks, then they can do it with Bitcoin. If a wealthy individual is so concerned that their accounts may be frozen due to sanctions, they could simply hold their wealth in Bitcoin in order to be protected from such actions. This clearly shows the use case of cryptocurrencies, which is all about helping you with transfer of capital from one point to another, irrespective of any government sanctions or other restrictions. Crypto holders also can set up a self-custody or custodial wallets with different addresses across several exchanges, making it extremely difficult for anybody to track any activity, and it's also difficult to retrace transactions back to a particular individual when transaction is done, especially via non-KYC. They can also use cryptocurrency exchanges that are not based in jurisdictions that are imposing sanctions. So, these people, or the government, do not necessarily have to adhere to regulations if they are using cryptocurrencies, especially if they use privacy cryptocurrencies. But the other thing that you need to keep in mind is that any assets held in cryptocurrency cannot be converted into fiat currencies because of all the restrictions imposed by the US government. It's also difficult for these billionaire individuals or government to convince any service that they're doing business with to accept digital payments because, even today, Bitcoin or any other cryptocurrencies are not used as something that could replace fiat currencies because of all the issues that Bitcoin is plagued with. And generally, cryptocurrencies are extremely volatile, making it difficult to convince anybody to do business using Bitcoin. Governments will also impose regulations on cryptocurrencies. Cryptocurrency holdings that exist on centralized exchanges might be easy to track because the experts believe that exchanges have access to certain technologies that allow for tracking and screening of wallets that come from sanctioned countries. So, it would be very difficult for individuals to convert cryptocurrencies into fiat currencies through centralized exchanges without being tracked, making it really hard for them to spend all their assets that are tied with cryptocurrencies. So, in the case of centralized exchanges, none of them will let individuals convert their digital assets to a currency, and when they do it, they will be caught and heavily fined. The legal status of cryptocurrencies in Russia is quite skeptical, with governments pushing to permit them in order to attract foreign investments and bring domestic trading out of the shadows. But the central banks are of the opinion that cryptocurrencies are similar to a pyramid scheme and should be banned. Top government officials also failed to agree on how to regulate cryptocurrencies. But millions of Russians have already invested a lot of money in so many digital assets. According to several sources, we are looking at about $22.9 billion worth of cryptocurrencies with the Russians. According to data from Singapore-based payment gateway AAA, more than 17 million Russians, or about 12% of the total population, have cryptocurrencies in their investment portfolio. So, it looks like cryptocurrencies are the perfect loophole for all the sanctions and restrictions that Russia has from the other countries. Cryptocurrencies are the bad news for enforcers of sanctions, but they're definitely good news for Russia. Russia might have had a lot of time to think about the consequences of their actions, so they might have clearly planned out a way to keep them safe, especially when it comes to their economy and finances. Sanctions are always some of the most powerful tools that the United States and European countries have to influence the behavior of nations that they do not consider allies. The United States, in particular, is able to use sanctions as a diplomatic tool because the dollar happens to be the world's reserve currency and the dollar was a gold standard when it comes to international payments, but not for long as the dollar is falling. At the same time, the government officials also know the impact of cryptocurrencies, which will end up reducing the impact of sanctions. Banks around the world play a major role in the enforcement of these sanctions. Digital currencies are something that banks need to fear because decentralized exchanges and other platforms that facilitate the buying and selling of cryptocurrencies make transactions difficult to track. And a final note. This video was supposed to be infotainment content and should only be viewed as such. This is clearly not a financial advice video. Any investments you make with cryptocurrencies, especially with privacy coins, must be made at your own risk because the cryptocurrency market is extremely volatile, and anything can happen to your investments. So, if you play your cards right, you will be able to make a lot of money with cryptocurrencies. Happy investing! And that's a wrap for today's video. What do you think about the consequences of this ongoing situation on our economy and your investments in cryptocurrency? Do let us know in the comment section below because we would love to hear from you all. Also, consider subscribing to our channel for more content just like this one and turn on post notifications so that you never miss out on any of our future uploads. That's about it for today. We hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to smash that like button and we will meet again in the very next video. So, stay tuned.